Okay, welcome back for part 2. Last time we talked about using iRacing's tools to make a basic paint. This time we're going to talk about downloading the Photoshop templates and some things we can do to make life a little easier as our paints get a little bit more complicated. First thing we're going to do is come down here and click Paint Car, and this is going to take us back to that screen where we set up our paints and our numbers. And we're simply going to click this Download Template button. That's going to download a zip file. You're going to go ahead and extract that file somewhere and you'll be left with a PSD file, just like this. All we need to do at this point is double click this file and open it up in Photoshop. Okay, here we are in Photoshop. Let's go through the things that are included in the basic template, and then we'll look at some things we can do to speed up the process going forward as we start to paint more and more cars. The first thing we'll see is the custom spec map layer. This is where we modify the matte versus glossy finish and the metallic versus non-metallic. We'll come back to this in a later video. It's fairly in-depth but really simple once you learn the concepts, so keep this turned off for now and we'll come back to that. Next is the turn off before exporting layer. You don't have to turn it off, they tell you to do it, but if you leave it on it will have no impact on your paint whatsoever. Inside this layer we're going to find the wire map. This is really important for lining up graphics across panels. If you look at the grid work here on this fender, these lines match up with the lines on the edge of the hood. So if you wanted to paste a graphic across these, you can use those to get things lined up. Makes life a lot easier. This also shows you where the boundaries of each part are. So say you wanted to paint the side of the cab one color and the space below the back window a different color, you can use the space in between these green outlines to paint. You don't have to be so exact and get right up to the edge. It gives you some leeway to kind of paint outside the line, so to speak. Next is the copyright information. This is simply the iRacing logo. You don't need it, don't worry about it, it's always there, just forget it. The next item is the mask. This is just simply the gray area that kind of gives you a visual representation of where the panels are. Makes it a lot easier to paint with that turned on. For obvious reasons, you can't see what's going on when you have it turned off, so let's leave it on. Next layer is the number block location. This is really important. We're going to use this a lot for placing numbers. You'll see it puts these blocks here that shows you where your door, roof, and front and rear numbers go. If we really zoom very far in here, you'll notice there's a little dot right in the middle. That's the exact center point of this shape. That's going to come in handy when we go and we paste a number in here. We want to resize it to fit this little dot's going to come in handy. Another little trick that I like to do is to set the opacity of this layer down so that when we paste our numbers underneath it, we can still see the shape and see the numbers and do the resizing and all that. And that'll make some more sense when we get to that point. Next is going to be the sponsor block locations. This is just like the number block, but it just tells us where to kind of place the sponsor logos. This is less important because we all know where the sponsors go on race cars, and that's changing from season to season anyway, so it's a handy reference but not super important. Next item is license. This is this little square right here, and this puts the license stripes on your bumper, whether it be the yellow, the blue, green, whatever license level you happen to be. You can turn this off and you won't have the stripes painted on the truck anymore. Some templates ignore this, some don't, so I turn it off by default on all of them, and some of them still go ahead and put the license stripes on, some don't. So your mileage may vary there. And then the final piece of this layer is the car mandatory. This is going to be your headlights, your tail lights, your grill, and those kind of things. You can turn these off while you're painting just to get them out of your way, but iRacing is going to stamp those on the car no matter what. Even if you paint over them and hide them, iRacing is going to stamp them on top of your paint job no matter what. So you can't get away from using those. So you can't have a no headlight car and those kind of things. We've seen it happen before with trading paints. Sometimes iRacing will bug out and you'll see a car come in with no headlights and grill and those kind of things, but it's pretty rare and not something that you can do on purpose. The final piece of the template is the paintable area. This is where all of our work's going to happen. In here you'll find car decal, which is the decals, the contingency stickers, the banner over the windshield, those kind of things. You can modify these, you can paint them, you can make your own, you can even turn them off. They're sort of like the stuff that's in the car mandatory layer, but they aren't actually mandatory. Next is tape, self-explanatory. Cockpit hose mount, that's this piece right here. It's specific to the trucks. The other cars don't have those, but it's something that you can change the color of. Should anyone ever put their camera inside the truck to look around, they'll see that, but not super important. Rear spoiler, obviously, you know what these are. We know what the brace bases are. These are just default things that you can change the colors of. Next, down here is car patterns. This is going to be important for us as we start to make our own. We're going to use some of these as our base templates. Some cars have these full color iRacing template or iRacing paint jobs included. Not all, but you can turn those on or off, use them however you want. But you'll notice that all of these car schemes are just red, blue, and green, and that's for a reason. And I'm going to show you the secret to that in the next video. Right now, just know that they're there and know that that's what this is for. So turn that off for the moment. And then the very last piece is the base. Obviously, that's the base color of your truck, car, whatever you're painting. Whatever color you have selected here, if you fill that layer, that's what color your truck or your car becomes. Pretty self-explanatory. Now that we've talked about all the bits and pieces of the template, let's talk about some of the things I do to keep things organized and kind of streamline the workflow. When we looked inside the paintable area before, we saw all of these components are on a separate layer. Each piece of the graphic that you add to this is going to create another layer, and things are going to quickly get confusing and out of hand. So I use groups like this one to group similar layers together. Say the numbers, the sponsor logos, the base graphics, and those kind of things. To do that, all you need to do is come down here and click this little folder icon, and it's going to create a new group. So we're going to call the first one graphics, and that's where we're going to put our base graphics, you know, any stripes and lines and those kind of things. Next, we're going to create a new group. We're going to recall this one numbers. Obviously, we're going to put all of our numbers in there. This is going to come in handy when we save the paint in two different formats, one with a number, one without. We can quickly come over here. If we have all of our numbers in this numbers group, with one click we can turn all the numbers off, save it as the non-numbered file, and off we go. Let's make another group. We're going to call this one logos. This is where we're going to put the sponsor logos. Again, that way if we make changes or remove things around, we can quickly select all of them at once and turn them on, turn them off, do those kind of things. Finally, we'll make one last group. We're going to call it default parts. And we're just going to come up here and hold shift and click. We're going to take all of those default items that iRacing puts in there, we're going to drag them into the default parts. And then we can collapse it. What that does is it lets us clean up some of the clutter here. We don't have quite so many layers here, and we can quickly zip down through here and not have to scroll through 200 different layers. Another thing I also like to do is right click here and change the color, and I make each one of these a different color so that I can quickly find what I'm looking for without having to scroll around. So if I had, you know, 6 different layers under here and 10 here, and this is all spread out as far as it can go, I can quickly go to a specific color and see what I'm working with. So now that we've done all of this, we've got our basic organization here. And now we're going to do a little trick that I like to do that saves time when you're making multiples, or say you want to do 2 or 3 different versions of the same vehicle. You don't want to have to keep saving and saving and saving. What I like to do is first go up, we'll save this. So now our default template has these layers in here. Then the next thing I like to do is I will go back over here and I will grab that file and I'll just simply rename it from PSD to PSDT. When we do that, you see the icon changes. It's now a Photoshop template file. If I double click on this file again, like this, we come back to Photoshop, we notice it's opened up as Untitled 1. What that means is we've left the PSDT file untouched. We can make any changes we want here, and if we forget to do a save as and we just hit save, it will prompt us for the name of that file. We'll save it that way and we won't overwrite our original. That way our original stays empty with no artwork, all the empty groups, and we don't have to go back and manually remove anything we've put on. If we want to get back to a blank template or anything like that, we can just quickly double click it, open it, we've got a new fresh project to work on, and off we go. So those are the simple parts of downloading the template, identifying what's in the template, and organizing the template. In the next video, we'll talk about using some of these car patterns and the little secrets to start building our new custom paint job. So thanks for watching this one. We'll see you next time. Bye.